There's something strange about depression. It feels like this heavy cloud hanging over your mind, making the outside world seem distant and foreign. I find myself watching life go on as if I'm behind a glass wall, unable to truly connect with it. The world outside keeps moving. People, noise, events. But for me, everything feels slower, harder to grasp. It's like life is happening, but not for me. Depression has a way of pulling you into yourself. It makes the world outside feel hostile, or at best, indifferent. You wake up, and even the simplest things, getting out of bed, walking outside, talking to someone, feel like monumental tasks. The Stoics taught that we should focus on what we can control, that the outside world isn't as important as how we choose to respond to it. But when you're depressed, even controlling your own thoughts feels impossible, like trying to hold on to sand as it slips through your fingers. Sometimes the outside world feels like too much. The brightness of the sun, the noise of the streets, the expectations of others, it all feels overwhelming. There's a pressure to engage with it, to be a part of it, to act like you're fine. But you're not. I'm not. I can feel the world spinning on, but I'm not moving with it. It's like being on the edge of a dance floor, watching everyone else move to music you can't hear. Foucault would probably say that we live in a society that expects us to perform mental health, to fit into these categories of well or unwell, and I feel that pressure every day. The world outside has expectations, and depression makes it hard to meet them. Friends ask how you are and you don't know what to say. They want you to get better, to snap out of it, but it doesn't work like that. You feel their concern, but also their frustration because they don't understand. How could they? The outside world is full of well-meaning advice. Just think positive. Get more exercise. Talk to someone. But none of it feels real when you're deep in it. The Stoics talk about accepting what you can't change, but when you're depressed, the hardest thing to accept is yourself. And so you wear a mask. You smile when you're supposed to, laugh when the moment calls for it, but inside everything feels hollow. You try to blend in, to play the part the outside world expects of you, but it's exhausting. Bion talks about how we process emotions, how we contain them, but sometimes it feels like there's no room left inside for anything else. You're so full of sadness, of numbness, that there's no space for joy or even relief. Control. It's something we talk about a lot. Control your thoughts, control your reactions, control your life, but depression strips that from you. The world outside feels chaotic, and inside it's no better. The Stoics remind us that we can control our responses, but in the depths of depression, even that feels like a battle you're losing. It's hard to focus on controlling your reactions when your mind is a battlefield, and you're exhausted from fighting every day just to keep going. Depression makes you feel like you don't belong, like you're watching life happen from the outside, a spectator to your own existence. The world keeps moving, people go on with their lives, but you feel like an outsider, cut off from the connection that others seem to have effortlessly. Existentialists would say that we have to create our own meaning, that life's meaning isn't handed to us. But how do you find meaning when you feel so disconnected from the world around you? But here's where the philosophy starts to help. The Stoics talk about small acts of discipline, doing the little things, even when they feel hard. And I've learned that some days, that's all I can do. Maybe it's getting out of bed, maybe it's stepping outside for just a moment. Maybe it's reaching out to someone, even if it feels like the hardest thing. The outside world might feel like too much, but maybe, just maybe, I can do one thing to connect with it, one thing to remind myself that I'm still here. Resilience is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I don't think people really understand what it means to be resilient when you're battling depression. It's not about bouncing back quickly or finding silver linings. It's about surviving. It's about holding on, even when you don't know how. It's about taking small steps, even when it feels like you're dragging yourself through quicksand. The world outside can feel distant, but there's strength in continuing to engage with it, even in small ways. Thank you for walking with me through these thoughts today. If you're living with depression and the outside world feels like it's slipping away from you, know that you're not alone. It's hard to engage with a world that feels indifferent, to connect when you feel so disconnected. But even in this struggle, there's hope. Maybe the world outside won't always feel this overwhelming. Maybe with time, we can learn to find our place in it again, even if it's just one small step at a time. So let's keep going, even when it feels impossible. Let's keep holding on, even when the world outside feels far away, because we're still here. And that matters.